Okay, so we will start today's lecture. The other day we have seen the various forces occurring in the transformer due to currents flowing in the conductors, radial and axial forces, etc. So today we will see how to calculate the radial forces. Next class we will go for finding axial forces and all. So now let us see the transient short circuit current. See, normal rated currents, the mechanical forces are not so large actually at rated current. But when short circuit currents pass through them, the mechanical forces increase many times. And it can be dangerous to the transformers also. So theoretical investigations as well as experiments show out of the these short circuit currents, transient three-phase short circuit current is most dangerous with regard to mechanical forces inside the transformer. Now, a transient short circuit current, the short circuit current consists of two parts actually, periodic and aperiodic components. Consider a simple RL equivalent circuit. Suppose this kind of circuit. What happened? Now consider a simple RL equivalent circuit with a switch like this, a resistor R and an inductor L. This is the voltage source, of course, sine omega t plus alpha, Vm sine omega t plus alpha, something like that. Vm sine omega t plus alpha, sinusoidal voltage. Now, when it is excited with sinusoidal voltage, so its differential equation is simply L di by dt plus R into I equals to Vm sine omega t plus alpha. Vm sine omega t plus alpha. Now, its solution consists of two parts, as already told. One is transient part. What is the transient part actually for a simple RL circuit? Anyone? Transient portion of a simple RL circuit. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Transient part of simple RL circuit. Natural response, in other words, some constant A into e to the power of minus
T by tau.
RT by L, right? T by tau. Tau is L by R. So that is RT by R. This is transient portion. And we have steady state portion. Steady state portion, how does it look like actually for this circuit?
Sir, A under bracket 1 minus e to the power minus t by tau.
Huh?
1 minus e to the power minus t upon tau.
1 minus?
I think.
Why 1 minus?
Sir, as initially it is 0 and in the final state it is at steady state it is constant value. Means
No, no,
inductor
no. If it is just, it depends on the initial and final conditions. Okay. When
Yes,
short
sir, yes,
circuit occurs, actually, the Vm sin omega t plus alpha, Vm sin omega t plus alpha is already the voltage there in the transformer. Okay. Now, suddenly it is grounded. The wire is grounded. So in that case, what kind of transient will generate? So it depends on the initial conditions. You have to apply initial conditions and then find out the nature. Basically, you have to write A e to the power of minus RT by L. Okay. The initial and final conditions, initial conditions when you substitute in the equation, no? So then automatically you will get the, constants, etc. Okay, that's how it is actually. So, what is the steady state portion? Now I am not clubbing. See, this is the nature of the A is not defined now. Okay, this is the nature of the transient current. Now,
Vm upon z sin omega t plus alpha minus theta.
minus theta is tan inverse omega L by R. So the exact transient, steady state current will be some Im. Im is the maximum current, steady state current, sin omega t plus alpha, okay, plus alpha, minus tan inverse omega L by R, minus tan inverse omega L by R. So this is how exact equation will be there. But this can be approximated. See that omega L by R, normally the reactive portion is more and resistive portion is less. Can be approximated as, this is 90 degrees. So this will become minus Im cos omega t plus alpha. This can be approximated. Im cos omega t plus alpha. So this is an approximation, of course, and valid approximation only. And the total current I is given by this I transient plus I steady state. So it is.
Sir, sorry, sir. Sir, sorry to disturb you, but my internet data is exhausted, so I am unable to continue the whole class. I think very soon my data is exhausted, sir. So
No
please
issue, no issue. I will share this with in the Google also later. Okay.
Okay, sir.
I'll share the video on YouTube also.
Sir, previous class is also live class, so please share the recording that class also.
Sure. Don't worry. Sure. I'll share that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. E to the power of minus RT by L minus Im cos omega t plus alpha. So this is the equation. Now, at t is equal to 0, I equals to 0 if these initial conditions we apply. So t is equal to 0, I equals to 0, implies what? A equals to this constant, we have to find it out, arbitrary constant. A equals to how much? What happened?
Im cos alpha.
Yeah, Im cos alpha.
Im cos alpha.
Im cos alpha. So A equals to Im cos alpha. Now with this, current equation can be written as Im cos alpha into e to the power of minus RT by L plus minus Im into cos omega t plus alpha. And when this current will be maximum, peak, when at what instant of time, see, switching can happen at any time t, right? So at what instant of time if the switching occurs, then the current is maximum. So let me write this statement again. I equals to minus Im cos omega t plus alpha plus that exponential portion Im cos alpha into e to the power of minus RT by L. Okay, so at what instant of time if the switching happens, then the current is maximum, or current will be the maximum instantaneous current will occur if this is this entire value, this is sinusoidally changing, right? If omega t plus alpha is equal to pi, then this will become 1. So in that case, you will get minus 1. So minus 1 into minus Im. So in that case, you get maximum current Imax equals to Im plus Im cos alpha e to the power of minus RT by L. Okay. Now, if you neglect the time, t, a very short time after the maximum occurs, then it can be approximately, see, et by r, e to the power of minus RT by R, L is an exponential decay function. So its time constant is normally in such a way that in 1-2 cycles of the sinusoidal voltage, not much decrease in the exponential term will happen. That's why approximately t is equal to 0 will hold for this. So the maximum current Imax equals to Im into 1 plus cos alpha. 1 plus cos alpha. So this is how it can be approximated. Of course, we have approximated here. We have neglected the resistance. See, if resistance is included, what will happen? Damping will be. See, where did we neglect the resistance? Here itself. It's in sine term. We have minus tan inverse omega L by R. So there we have neglected. Some phase difference will be there. So that is one approximation. And here in the exponential term, we have approximated that it is minus RT by L is almost 1. But a little bit reduction will be there. T is equal to 0, e to the power of 0 is 1. But t, t increases a little bit. And then exponential term e to the power of minus RT by L decreases a little bit. So the maximum current is somewhat less than this actually. It's not exactly equal to Im into 1 plus cos alpha, but approximately equal to Im into 1 plus cos alpha. Now, this alpha, if this alpha is that, of course, phase angle. Now, if we switch at alpha is equal to 0, then what will happen? The current will be 2 times. This gives 2 times Imax. What is Imax here? Im here, 2 times Im, sorry, 2 times Im. What is Im here? Im is this one actually. This is the maximum current in the steady state component. Means actually that is related to rated current only, maximum rated current. Or in this case of steady state, it is related to steady state current. So here, when we are referring to steady state conditions, 2 into Im. Im means maximum sinusoidal current. So that will appear at the starting Imax. So this is the peak current. Sorry, Imax. This is the peak current that will appear. Now, if alpha is equal to pi by 2, what will happen? Hello. If alpha is equal to pi by 2, what will happen?
Imax become Im.
So the maximum current is simply equals to Im. So there will be no transient in that case. So the transient will be high when alpha equals to 0. Now, how the current will be actually? So it is roughly equals to 2 times Im, 2 times Im, where Im is the steady state portion actually. But in practice, this factor 2 is not actually will not actually occur, but close to 2 it will happen. So the we can say in general Imax equals to some Km times Im, where Im is the steady state portion actually, maximum value in the steady state portion. So where Km, the value of the Km is roughly 1.7 in practice. Practically, the value of Km is practically around 1.7 to 1.8. This is the experimental practical value. Now, for estimation of Im from rated current and short circuit impedance, now what is this Im? This Im is steady state short circuit current actually. This Im is steady state short circuit current, sinusoidal portion, steady state short circuit current. Imax is the peak current in the transformer. Now this can be further written as Imax equals to Km into Im. This is IMSC actually, IMSC, maximum current in short circuit current, which is equals to Km into root 2 times ISC. This is short circuit RMS current. Now, this can be further written as Km into root 2 into 1 by ZSC or 100 by percentage ZSC. 100 by percentage ZSC, short circuit impedance, into I rated current. Now here we are relating rated current to short circuit current. That's the only thing. Using the base impedance, if you take 1 as the per unit base, then 1 by per unit ZSC you have to use. Otherwise, 100 by percentage ZSC you have to use. Percentage ZSC means per 100 you have to use per unit. If you per unit value, if you have ZSC, multiply it by 100, you will get percentage ZSC. So this is the maximum current during short circuit. And it's a waveform, actual exact waveform if you see. So the waveform will look like this actually. This is short circuit current only. It's not normal current. So this is the envelope. E to the power of minus RT by L envelope. This is the envelope. And this goes like this actually. And it reaches a steady state. So this is how the short circuit current will look like. Now, after this, we have to go for calculation of mechanical forces, right? Now, how do I calculate? Okay, this is the currents, 1.8 times the 1.8 times the steady state short circuit current. Steady state short circuit current, you have to imagine. Maximum value of steady state short circuit current 1.8 into root 2 into RMS value of the steady state current. So it is huge current actually. This will cause I square, forces are proportional to I square. So huge forces will be generated inside the transformer. Now how to calculate these forces? Now with this we have an idea on the short circuit current. And now let us go into the calculation of the mechanical forces. How do we calculate mechanical forces then? So then in a magnetic field actually BIL is the force on a current carrying conductor I of length L in a magnetic field B. Of course, we assume that all are perpendicular to each other so that sin theta term will go. And then you will have simple equation as B into I into L. But as already pointed out in the previous class, finding exact flux distribution is a little bit a difficult task. Is there any other mechanism by which we can calculate, we can find the forces? Do you have any idea? How forces can be found in a transformer? See, of course, if you need force on exact turn and all, obviously you need its current and its magnetic field in which it is located and all these things. But if you would like to calculate, forces on the windings, then is there a way? Anyone who has idea about the forces and energies, how they are related? No idea. Okay, let us see. So the maximum steady state current already we have discussed. And now calculation of mechanical forces. Force on conductors actually requires BIL. Yes, that is true. See, if you want forces on individual turns, see, there are two things here. See, if we know forces on the winding as a whole, for example, primary winding and secondary winding, if we have the forces on the winding on a whole, on the whole, then we can this can be useful for design of spacers between the windings, design of spacers between winding and core also. So these forces are also required for us. And if you want exact design of each turn by turn, then forces on the turns also required actually. Let us first go through these forces on the windings. Now here there is a definition given to you. So average force on windings can be calculated using the following theorem actually, which states that for any system of bodies possessing a certain amount of potential energy in the position of static equilibrium, the force tending to change a coordinate of the system is equal to the derivative of the potential energy with respect to that coordinate. So this is in magnitude actually, not in direction. Direction we have to understand in which direction it will be acting. But here it says that the force is equal to the derivative of potential energy. Force in any direction, any coordinated direction, x coordinate, y coordinate, z coordinate, r coordinate, whatever it is, any coordinate direction is the derivative of the potential energy with respect to that coordinate. This what is a basic theorem actually relating energy to force, potential energy to force. But do we have such a situation here in the transformer that a system of bodies possessing certain amount of potential energy in the position of static equilibrium? So in the absence of any damage actually, so in the transformer we have certain amount of energy stored in the transformer. Where is that energy stored in the transformer? Windings.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so in the space actually wherever the leakage flux is there now, so there we have certain amount of energy stored in the system actually. What is the amount of energy stored in a transformer or in the winding system?
1/2 Li square.
Yeah, half Li square. Half Li square is the energy stored in the system. Now, we know the energy stored in the system. Now, if we can, what we need actually, if we differentiate with respect to a certain coordinate, we will get forces direction. That's what it is. It means. So our energy in the transformer is magnetic field is half L I square. And we have already seen how to calculate this L, right? Hence we have already calculated, right? So we have to use that actually. And then use this equation to find out the force. Then what is force actually? Force in magnitude. Dou, why dou? Because it's not a full differentiation of all the variables. Dou Wm by dou G, where G is a particular direction, particular coordinate direction in which you are interested to find out the force. Now, what should we do to find, radial forces in a transformer? Radial forces in the windings. Now you have transformers, and you assume that both the windings are of equal height and all. The simplest case, right? So here the radial forces, the inner winding will face compressive force in this direction. The outer winding will face bursting force in this direction. Now here, what is the radial direction? Or if you see from the top, I will also draw the cross-sectional view of both the windings. This is one winding, and this is the another winding which is outside, that secondary winding. Now here you face the forces which are bursting out, and which are squeezing in, or compressive forces like this. So these kind of forces will exist in the transformer. Now this is the radial dimensions. If you see, this is WG, if you remember. WG is the gap between these windings, physical gap, the dimension, gap between these windings. What was the energy stored in this actually? Half Li square. L you remember, right? Half Li square. Actually, we derived the formula for inductance also from half Li square, if you remember. So I am stating here the energy stored, you may verify, mu naught by 2 Ni whole square by HR, the Rogowski height, pi d average diameter, d, into omega g, that is WG or omega t, whatever it is, WG plus W1 plus W2. These are dimensions of the winding 1 and winding 2, or width of the winding 1 and winding 2. This is the equation, if you remember. Now, I want radial forces. Radial forces are equal and opposite. If you remember, this is Fr, this is also Fr, radial force. These are equal and opposite. So what should I do? From this, I want to find out radial force. Can anyone help? I know that differentiating with respect to a coordinate will give me the force in that direction. What happened? Here, what are the variables, by the way?
So WG, W1 and W2.
Yeah, WG, W1 and W2. In case if it bursts, then what will happen to W1? What will happen to W2? What will happen to WG? Okay, so you can differentiate, in fact, either any one of them or all of them together. Assume that some W factor, something, W equivalent or something like that, and then differentiate with respect to that. So, or you may imagine in a way that, for example, the forces Fr on the first winding is in this direction, which is compressing the winding, and then this is on the other hand, they are trying to burst the outer winding. So inner winding is compressed and outer winding is burst out. So in that case, these forces tend to increase the gap, that is WG. They tend to increase the gap. So it is reasonable to differentiate with respect to WG. That what are the forces that are tending to increase WG? So those are radial forces only. So by doing so, we get the total radial force Fr magnitude dou W by dou WG. Right? Now, if you differentiate, what will you get actually? Half mu naught Ni by HR, let me club here, whole square, pi d HR. Because I have made it whole square here, I have again kept HR there. So this is how you will get the radial force, total radial force on either winding, any of these winding. Total radial force is this much. Now, can we correlate this with the basic force, BIL. So you can make an attempt here actually to subdivide these components into three components. One is a mu naught N into I by 2 times HR. This is one component. And N into I. This is another component. And pi into D. This is third component. If you carefully see the dimensions, etc., that will match to this is B, the magnetic flux density. This is I, the current, and this is length of the conductor. BIL, F is equal to BIL, if you remember. That's what I have been mentioning. So you can see the similarity. Means, if you go by this individual turns and all, we can correlate BIL to this radial force, because this is also magnetic force. Therefore, it should have the dimensions matching, etc. Where B is the mean flux density, you can say. Whatever B we get using this formula, that can be said as mean flux density. There is a factor 2 actually. That 2 appears because, trapezoidal nature of the MMF. The MMF will be like this and like this, right? So that 2 factor appears for that reason. And the total current I is Ni, because N number of turns are there, Ni, that's it. And L equals to pi D is the mean length of the conductor. L equals to pi D. 2 pi R is the length of the conductor, right, for any radius R. Now D is the mean diameter we have taken. So pi D is the mean length of the conductor. So this is the radial force on windings, total radial force on windings. Now we have given here the formula for, the windings of equal height and all. So for different windings also similarly, by differentiating the energy in particular direction. In which direction? Here, WG direction. So in WG direction, we have found the forces in the radial direction. So you have any questions? We'll continue the class for axial forces and hoops tension, etc. In the next class tomorrow.